was no executive branch in the Confederation Congress, and there was no taxation power. When the Confederation Congress wanted money to pay for the Army, for example, to build ships for the Navy, it had to requisition money from the states. How likely were the states to comply? Not very likely. And the federal government had no power of compulsion to make them comply. And so the state governments had become far too powerful relative to the federal government, as far as Madison and other Federalists were concerned. So it became a matter of restoring balance. Restoring balance between the states and the federal government, restoring balance within the federal government by restoring these different branches of government. James Madison from Federalist number 63. Liberty may be endangered by the abuses of liberty as well as by the abuses of power. And the former, rather than the latter, is apparently most to be apprehended by the United States. It's a fascinating statement. Liberty may be endangered by the abuses of liberty. Too much liberty is a bad thing. Too much democracy is a bad thing. This is the gulf between our world and Madison's world. No politician today will get up and say, too much democracy is a bad thing, right? That'd be political suicide. But that's what Madison is saying in 1787. John Dickinson, Pennsylvania Federalist, prominent fellow. Rather second-rate liberal arts college in Pennsylvania State. He says, talking about the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Senate should consist of the most distinguished characters, distinguished for their rank in life and their weight in property, and bearing as strong a likeness to the British House of Lords as possible. Can you imagine that? That's rather bald-faced. We need to create a branch in the federal government that mimics as closely as possible the House of Lords. This is a patriot, right? He's not a closet monarchist trying to bring back the king. The issue is we need to restore power. We need to restore balance to the federal government. So the battle lines in 1787 are drawn by Madison and Hamilton and their co-thinkers on one side who fear abuse of power from below. They fear that there's too much democracy and that democracy is leading the United States towards political anarchy. And on the other side are people who support the Articles of Confederation. We might call them Confederationists. They believe that the real threat is from resurgent tyranny. That if you create a government that mimics the British government, you're going to recreate the conditions of tyranny that led to revolution in the first place. That if you create a distant, centralized, powerful government, you're basically creating Parliament again. And that will abuse its powers and ultimately abuse the liberties of the people. Okay. Alexander Hamilton framed this in terms of the word energy. And if you read the Federalist Papers and the correspondence of the founders, you'll see the word energetic come up again and again. Very interesting. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 15. Something is necessary to be done to rescue us from this impending anarchy. We may indeed with propriety be said to have reached almost the last stage of national humiliation, the imbecility of our government. Our federal government is incapacitated. George Washington writing to Hamilton during the convention. The people who oppose strong and energetic government are, in my opinion, narrow-minded politicians or under the influence of local views. And this was how Federalists tended to describe anti-Federalists. They were narrow-minded and under the influence of local views. They couldn't see beyond their own fence post, right? To the larger world, the larger issues beyond it. Thomas Jefferson, writing to James Madison from Paris in December of 1787, after Jefferson has read the Constitution, says, I own I am not a friend to a very energetic government. It's always oppressive. The late rebellion in Massachusetts has given more alarm than I think it should have done. He's referring here to Shays' Rebellion, an uprising of farmers in western Massachusetts in 1786. Calculate that one rebellion in 13 states in the course of 11 years is but one for each state in a century and a half. No country should be so long without it. That's a wonderful insight into Jefferson's mind. What are all these people having all these hissy fits about Shays' Rebellion? It was a little agrarian uprising. you know, in the distant corner of a New England state. If that happens once every 150 years in every state, what's the big deal as far as he's concerned? So that's kind of the fault lines that are opening up here in terms of this debate. All right. I'm not going to go here into detail about the Constitution, the Virginia Plan, and all that business because Ken will talk to you in much greater detail about the Constitution. But I want to talk to you about the Federalist Papers and the case they make then for defending this effort to restore balance to the federal government. And here I think it's useful. I'm going to, the next few slides we'll actually read some passages from the Federalist Papers. But I think it's good to bear in mind here Madison and Hamilton kind of having a discussion with each other about government. And this is important because, of course, after the Constitution is ratified and the federal government puts in place, Hamilton goes this way, Madison goes that way, right? So it's important to read the Federalist Papers to know what's coming ahead as well. And here I think it's useful if we think of Madison and Hamilton as kind of the good cop, bad cop. And Hamilton is the bad cop. Hamilton is the purveyor of doom and gloom if the current system prevails. Shays' rebellion is only a harbinger of what's going to happen if we don't have a stronger federal government that can put down domestic insurrections, that can deal with our foreign enemies. The Union will dissolve, the states will be plunged into civil war and anarchy, foreign powers will prey on the United States and its territories, the government will be unable to marshal its resources, to defend itself, it won't be able to pay its foreign creditors, the whole thing will fall apart. So he's kind of, the Federalist Papers that Hamilton writes have kind of a Chicken Little feel to them, right? He's grabbing you by the lapels, he's trying to wake you up, it's almost too late, come on. I think he would be the one on the Fox News channel, kind of with his bullhorn trying to get people out. Madison, on the other hand, Madison is the calming voice of reason. Madison's the one who then comes into the room and says, wait. Yeah, things are bad, but I got this plan here, right? And if you ratify this Constitution, everything's going to be okay because we've thought it through. It makes sense. I'm going to explain it to you now. So he's on the Charlie Rose show. Or he's David Brooks, writing in the New York Times. So just everybody step back from the brink here. It's going to be okay. We can do this, people. I've got a plan. It's just crazy enough that it might work, is how he's describing it. So the first thing is the importance of preserving the federal union. And Hamilton writes the first big chunk of the Federalist Papers. 1 through 15 deal with the issue of the federal union, the need to preserve it, why one single federal union of the 13 states is going to be much better than breaking into 2 or 3 smaller republics or something like that. We must preserve the strength of the federal, we must preserve and strengthen the federal union, or we will split ourselves into an infinity of little, jealous, clashing, tumultuous commonwealths, the wretched nurseries of unceasing discord, and the miserable objects of universal pity or contempt. That's the kind of language that he's using to shake you by the lapels. Preserving the union means creating a federal government with power to act directly on the people. The way we are going to create an energetic government is create a federal government that is not simply a composite of the individual state governments, a confederation, but a national government. This is not going to be a confederation. This is going to be a national government that has the power to act directly on the people. Energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of a good government. A feeble executive implies a feeble execution of government. You need to have an executive branch. You need to give that branch powers to enforce laws to get things done. We must extend the authority of the union to the persons of the citizens, the only proper objects of government. The federal government's going to be no good if its only powers deal with the states. It needs to have the power to deal directly with the people. People pay attention to the government that directly has authority over them. I live in Maryland. I don't care about the state government of Pennsylvania. It has no jurisdiction over me. Right? I care what's happening in the state of Maryland. A nation without a national government is, in my view, an awful spectacle. A nation without a national government is an awful spectacle because it's going to fracture into these tiny little republics as far as he is concerned. How are you going to create a federal government that can act directly on the people? The most significant power you're going to give it, the power to tax them.